Good morning, everyone. This is Madalyn with Trans Family Voices. This week we are talking about reactions, coming out, people around us, our families, our partners' families, everything like that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I think in our situation, in Dylan and my relationship, our families are kind of as opposite as maybe you can get. I was raised super, kind of open-minded and judgment-free. So when I talk to my family, namely my parents, about Dylan, meeting him and the whole process that he was going through, my mom was very accepting. She didn't really have that much of a reaction. My dad was like, yeah, awesome, cool, because he's that kind of guy. And then, the rest of my family, excluding maybe my grandparents on my father's side, they've never met Dylan. They don't really know anything about him. Not for any specific reason, just because it hasn't actually happened. But no, everybody was really great, and my dad's side of the family is, lots of brothers and sisters, and they were very accepting and, gung-ho about it, I guess. Just happy for me. I think that was the reaction, that they were just really happy for us and our relationship and us getting to know each other. And I think that was something that, that Dylan was trans. It was like, oh, okay, but do you like each other, So it was definitely not the main thing or even a factor, which I really appreciate, because for me it's not a main factor. It's a thing. It's there. Obviously it's a huge part of our lives, but the fact that we love each other is the most important thing, in my opinion. Mushy moment, I guess. So yeah, my family was great. I think acceptance and being fine with it is one thing, but then going further and wanting to educate yourself, I think, is another thing. I know that my mom struggled a lot with pronouns, not because she didn't want to, use the pronouns that Dylan was asking for or wanting, but just because she really just spaced a lot of the time, and so that took some getting used to. And I think a lot of times we'll have like new conversations about new things, and it's definitely something she doesn't know a lot about. A lot of my family doesn't know a lot of stuff about, but they're fine with it. But whether they're 100% up to date on things, or if they ask questions or things like that, sometimes that's on a case-to-case basis. I hope that it will be more talked about in the future, or whatever. So in terms of like friends and acquaintances, Dylan started going through changes and kind of coming to terms with who he was and coming out to people when we were in undergrad in Berea. And for the most part, everyone was incredibly, open to it and accepting, and like, all right, if this is who you are, then this is who you are, and that's great, and we love you. So, even his professors were wonderful, which I can't even begin to express how great that was, having people that you really look up to, who are shaping you, who, have this amount of knowledge that you really value, and people that you really look up to being totally open and loving you for you, I think is great. Our friends were great. I mean, there are a few exceptions, and, friendships change and acquaintances change, but, I don't think it necessarily had to do with Dylan being trans or coming out. But, we had a summer class in college, and that's where Dylan and I kind of started talking, really getting to know each other. And the two professors of that class were incredibly open. It was a class about drag performance and gender identity, and just exploring lots of different terms and people's, you know, how they identify or how they don't identify, what they prefer, what they don't prefer. That was a class we had over the summer, and Dylan just became really vocal about, you know, issues and being interested in everything that was going on. And those two professors of that class, I think, had a huge influence on changing my mindset. Not that it necessarily needed to be changed, but I think maybe just opening my mind and broadening it to how much I didn't know and how much I had assumed. But that's something that I'm still learning, you know, every single day, is these things that I've assumed or, you know, just know, I guess, you know, quote unquote, I really don't. Or there's so much more to learn and explore. And I think as Dylan's partner, you know, I always felt like, you know, oh, if we talked about things, then that was fine. But, you know, I'm learning more and more that I want to know more. I want to be active. I want to, you know, talk to people and gain that knowledge that I don't think I necessarily have right now. So, tangent. Anyway, not last but not least, but in terms of our friends, when Dylan moved to St. Louis and then when I moved here after I went to grad school, I don't even know if we encountered, you know, people who weren't supportive. And I think a really big change came when Dylan stopped introducing himself and then saying, and I'm trans. You know, it was just, I'm Dylan. And that really happened when he was here, because that's when he started T, and that, you know, there wasn't like a disclaimer. He didn't feel like he needed to use a disclaimer, which I think is amazing. You know, it's like, you don't want to go up to someone and introduce yourself for something about yourself that isn't really on the surface. You know, you want them to get to know you for you, and then if that's something that you want to share with them, then that's your decision. That's up to you. And so, yeah, St. Louis people, great. We really love them, and it's been kind of an amazing journey thus far, getting to know people in the community. So last but not least, Dylan's family. I think there's a lot that can be said about Dylan's family. Before I do the videos, I always ask Dylan, talk with him briefly about things, what he's comfortable with me sharing and what he isn't comfortable with me sharing, and especially about his family. I think I wanted to know what he was comfortable with. Dylan was born and grew up for the majority of his life in Taiwan, in a Pentecostal missionary family. So his life has changed a lot. And I think, you know, long story short, he doesn't really have a relationship with his family. It's still something that is happening, you know, the strain of those relationships with his family and his parents and his brothers, and, you know, a family that he loves very, very much. But they're 100% not supportive of him or really anything. So that's a lot, and I don't really know how to, you know, say much more than that, except that he doesn't really have his family. And yeah, that's definitely one of the downsides of things in his life, you know, that as he's gone through changes, he's really lost a loving family and a supportive system that he had for so long, not only, you know, in his family, but in his church community and things like that. But that's definitely a part of his life that isn't active much anymore. And I don't know really how much to say about it, except, I mean, there's always hope, you know, in the future that things could change and everything, but he seems to be much more mature about the situation than I am. I tend to just get angry, which, you know, obviously doesn't help anything. So that's something that we don't talk about a whole lot, because it's his family and, you know, he can deal with it. I think he needs to deal with his emotions and everything the way he needs to deal with them. And I'm always here to be supportive, but there's really only so much I can do. My family has opened to him with, you know, complete love and acceptance and wanting to be his family. But I know that can't ever, you know, necessarily replace the family you were born with and that you grew up with and that you have memories with and everything. So, you know, it's not the best situation. Anyway, I think that's all I'm going to say about that. And I hope you guys, you know, stay safe from these tornadoes that we've been having. And I will see you guys next week. Have a great weekend.